can. He says he plans to be more careful after losing $2,700.
I feel like, how could I have fallen for this type of scam?
Our family is devastated. I've had to go now on a 7-day work rotation, so I work every single day of the week. It ruined things.
I'm devastated. I'm absolutely devastated about it. I couldn't eat for at least 6 days. It's, I'm still in the process of recovering because, they pretty much flushed me out.
Yeah, these stories are devastating. March is Fraud Prevention Month in Canada, and it's an opportunity to make you and your family and friends, particularly those who are most vulnerable, aware that there are people out there trying to get you financially. A lot of scams have been around for the last 2 to 3 decades, but the emergence and popularity of things like social media and cryptocurrency have created a modern twist. Since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has reported an increase in fraud and cybercrime attacks launched by email and text messages known as phishing scams. Well, some of these attacks were COVID-themed, like CERB-related, for example. Many of them had the same intention, to trick you into opening malicious attachments or to trick you into revealing sensitive personal and financial details. Joining us now to break down these scams and some of the consistent themes are Tony Anscombe, cybersecurity evangelist for ESET, a global digital security company, and CP24's crime analyst, Steve Ryan, who spent the day reporting on one particular scam, which we will talk about shortly. Thank you so much, both of you, for being here. Tony, so many of these scams, as I've said, have been around for such a long time, but now we're seeing more of them. We're seeing, investors getting duped. This is not someone who is, in some scams, it's someone who is vulnerable, more vulnerable. But we are seeing people who think they're making great financial decisions, jump onto a cryptocurrency site, and it ends up being fake. What's happening here?
Well, I think there's two things. One is we're trusting, we've all been locked away for 2 years and we're maybe trusting more on the internet than we should do. But also cyber criminals are becoming more confident and they're gaining more information, and therefore they're able to make their scams look more realistic. So it's harder to actually spot what's fake.
Yeah, so Tony, these scams are very sophisticated. In some of the stories that CTV News has reported on, one gentleman who you saw there in that last clip, his identity was not provided. He lost $260,000. Some of the people we've chatted with, they feel that they are investing on what is a legitimate site. They see increases to their investment. There may be even a bit of a payout, a tiny one, but when you want to go and get the real payout, it doesn't exist. How is it that people are getting duped? I mean, how do you determine a legit site from a fake one?
Well, firstly, I think there is an element of people looking at cryptocurrency and looking at the stories in the media of people getting very rich very quick on cryptocurrencies. Well, that's just not the case. I mean, there is no get-rich-quick scheme. If there was, I think all of us wouldn't be here. We'd be on the beach somewhere with a big yacht. So that's the first thing, is to make sure that actually there isn't. But how to spot those scams? Is there a regulator? When you're making a financial investment, look to see whether there's a regulator behind it. Look to see whether there's validation from a government source or a regulatory body. Do they have other sites, other places where you can go and validate who their business is, how they're doing business, and read reviews, etc. Go and actually make sure you're investing with somebody that has that backup. And while you may think, well, I'll get rich faster here, you're also at risk of losing your money as well.
And what you've said, Tony, the Better Business Bureau here in Canada says that cryptocurrency scams are the #1 fraud in the country right now. People losing, $10,000, $30,000, upwards of $200,000. And the mistake that they're making, unfortunately, is kind of, if it's too good to be true, it actually is. People are looking for this get-rich-quick scheme. So I'm going to go over, Tony, we'll come back to you as well, to our Steve Ryan. Steve, as a longtime police detective, you're well aware of this, but today you reported on what has been a long-time scam, the romance scam. So bear with me for a moment. We're going to tell a bit of the story here. I want to show you this man. This is a man here who was arrested by police. He is 20-year-old Jackson Liu, facing several charges in connection with alleged scams. Police say a man targeted victims on dating sites, met them in person, and would ask to use their phones to make a call. And then police say he would use the victims' phones to send electronic money transfers to himself and used the victim's credit cards to make purchases. Police believe the combined losses, about $30,000. They say there may be more victims, and the detective in the case said he was shocked by how easy it was for the suspect to gain access to credit cards and banking information. Take a listen.
As this investigation has advanced, new victims have come forward. However, I believe there may be more. A common theme in this investigation was the level of manipulation the victims were subjected to. Some of the victims targeted had learning disabilities and physical disabilities. In all cases, the victims were simply looking for some companionship, and instead they were deceived for financial gain.
So, Steve, this is a bit of the romance scam and a bit of a finance scam, but the accused in this case really took it to the next level. We don't often see in scams the alleged scammer meeting the victim in person.
Well, Christina, people that commit these crimes are, I would say, a special type of person because oftentimes they prey on the vulnerable. They play on our seniors, they play on those with disabilities, they play on newcomers to the country, and they play on emotion. And these are the type of people that these crooks think that they can get away with committing these crimes. And in fact, they can't, because oftentimes it's those people I just described are the ones that come forward. And I agree with what your guest said there with regards to technology. That has opened the doors up in so many ways for these crooks to do what they do.
And Steve, you know, when we take a look at this scam, you know, there's like I said, a financial aspect, but when we look at the vulnerable, the romance scams, the elderly scam, in every scam, people's lives are devastated, but there is an emotional aspect to these scams. And you chatted with someone today that saw the accused photo on TV, and you spoke to this person who was almost victimized?
Yeah, he was. This accused, now he's been arrested and charged, was befriending this guy who approached me today. And here's how important it is, not for the police to get the pictures of these suspects out or accused, also for the media to get it out, because this guy saw his picture today on our newscast and he recognized him because, believe it or not, this suspect or accused last night was texting with this guy and sending his picture. So that's how concerned he is.
Tony, when we take a look at some of the most prevalent scams, you know, cryptocurrency now, but they often follow some of the same themes. You know, someone's vulnerable. Maybe that vulnerability is even, you know, you want to make money. And people are often, as you've noted, overlooking some of the checks and balances that should be there. What else should people be looking out for?
Well, in this particular instance, the piece you're talking about is where actually the scammer is building trust over time. And that's very difficult because that creates an emotional relationship between the scammer and, unfortunately, the victim. One of the good things to do is actually, if you get a picture of the scammer, is to do a reverse image lookup on the scammer and to see whether they've got an identity other than the one that you think they have. So you do that by going to Google Images and you just upload their image or the URL where their image is on, say, a dating site, and suddenly you may actually be able to see that they have multiple identities on the internet, which should actually give you an alert straight away. The other thing I'd say is don't hand over your device. I think in that particular story, somebody was handing over their device to that person. Yeah, it's very simple. And your officer there will tell it, I'm sure will back up. Stalkerware is a very easily configurable and installable package on a device. And actually, somebody can see virtually everything you do on the device from there on, even get your SMSs, so your two-factor authentication codes and such like. So be cautious of who you hand over a device to.
Yeah, that's great advice because, again, as we've been saying, Tony, and Steve, I'm sure you could speak to in your career, and I've covered a lot of scams over the years, particularly at the beginning of my career, and it has been, over time, quite rare for you to meet the scammer. It's often this anonymous kind of person that you think you know, but you don't. So thank you both for that. And I want to end on this note because Tony and Steve, you both made some great points, but the Canadian Anti-Fraud Centre has a list of scams. So if you think you're being scammed or something sounds too good to be true, they actually have a list that they update frequently. So you can tell if you're about to be scammed or have been, and they have information on how to protect yourself and your loved ones. They also have an option to report scams online or by calling them. And as our Steve Ryan spoke a bit about, reasons you may want to report a scam is the info you provide could link a number of crimes together. So, you know, police and the fraud centers, the federal fraud center could see there's a pattern here. And then also the information could complete or progress an investigation. All this can be found at antifraudcenter.ca. And of course, I'm sure as our Steve Ryan will agree, if you've been the victim of a scam or fraud or cybercrime, contact your local police as soon as possible. Thank you to Tony and Steve as always. And please, if it's too good to be true, it often is.